Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing my top 10 film discoveries of 2020. So not many people do this top 10 discoveries list, but I think that this is a good way to show off some of the kind of like things that you discover throughout the year, because not everyone's just watching movies that came out this year. So I thought it would be a fun idea to make my top 10 list and maybe introduce some new people to maybe some of the older movies that they hadn't gotten a chance to watch. So a disclaimer, I did not watch every single movie ever made, so I am not able to put everything on this list, and this is just all of my opinion. So before I get into my top 10, I want to start off with some honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is The Monster Squad, and this is a fun movie. I just had a really good time watching it. I still can't believe that there's only really been two kind of recent monster movie mashups, and that's what I loved the most about this movie, was that it was a Universal monster movie mashup. And the only other recent one that came out was Transylvania 65000, which I did a review of, but it was like that came out like a year or two before or after, I don't remember, of this movie, and definitely like to see some more of these like Universal monster team-up movies. The next honorable mention I have is the movie Rebecca, and this is a Alfred Hitchcock movie, and was just remade this year, which is why I watched the original. The remake made my worst list, but I really enjoyed this. There's so many different subtext in this movie, and I think that that's what makes it interesting. And Alfred Hitchcock's just a master filmmaker, so it's visually stunning. There's all these really unique camera shots, and it's overall just basically a masterpiece to watch. So I definitely recommend checking this one out. So now let's get into my top 10 list. So coming in at number 10, we have Event Horizon. And this one was a really interesting movie that I had really no interest in watching, and then I had seen a lot of people and on a lot of lists saying that it was a horror movie, well, a horror sci-fi movie, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, and I gave it a watch, and it really kind of reminded me a bit of Hellraiser, and I'm a big Hellraiser fan, so this one would have been cool if it were a Hellraiser sequel, the Hellraiser sequel that we would have deserved for number 4, Hellraiser in Space, basically. So I think that that would have been a fun idea, but overall, I think that it was a pretty interesting movie, and the one scene where we see what happened to the crew of the Event Horizon was definitely crazy, and one of the creepiest things about this movie. Coming in at number 9, we have High Tension. This is a French movie, part of the new French Extremity. I would say it's probably like the second most popular of the new French Extreme, behind Martyrs, of course. This one's about a college couple that go back to one of their family farms to study for, I forget what it was, but they go, and the girl who doesn't live there is staying in a room in the attic, and the first night that she's there, the family gets brutally massacred, and the girl's friend is kidnapped, and she has to try to go and get her friend back. There's a very crazy twist that happens in the third act. It's definitely something that has been done before, but of course this one is a lot more brutal in this movie because of the new French Extreme. Also, just on a side note, the killer in this movie looks like Donald Trump. I don't know why, but every time I saw him when I was watching this movie, I was like, that is very clearly Donald Trump murdering these people, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was him. So coming in at number 8, we have Teaching Mrs. Tingle. This is the one and only movie that Kevin Williamson actually directed, which I'm surprised because I actually really enjoyed this movie. I think a lot of the issues that came with this movie when it came out was that the Columbine High School massacre had happened, and there was a lot of issues with portraying these high school kids getting back at their teacher for basically being a really horrible person. I can understand that this movie didn't do very well because of the political climate, and it just seems like Kevin Williamson, a lot of his movies had issues because of the Columbine High School Massacre, and it was very unfortunate because I think that Teaching Mrs. Tingle, for exactly the way that it is still a pretty decent movie. Coming in at number 7, we have Willard, and this is a remake of a movie from, I believe, the 70s, and I just enjoyed this movie so much. I don't know what it is about this movie, but this guy basically becomes friends with some rats. Basically, he teaches the rats to get back at people that have been really mean to him, essentially. And I just enjoyed this movie and had a lot of fun watching it. Coming in at number 6, we have Death Becomes Her. So this movie is so campy and so much fun to watch. It's got Goldie Hawn, and it's got Meryl Streep and Bruce Willis in this, like, very comedic movie with actually really interesting and cool special effects for the time. And it's basically the story about how these women want to stay young and how they're fighting with each other and also fighting about a man. And it's just a really fun movie and definitely worth watching if you've never seen it. Coming in at number 5, we have a mini-series from Netflix, and it's a documentary series, and it's called Don't Fuck with Cats. And this documentary, if you are a true crime fan, it is leaps and bounds more interesting true crime wise than Tiger King, and I really didn't see a whole lot of people talking about this one, but I watched it at the beginning of the year and I was floored by how insane it was and how these amateur internet sleuths got involved, because it started with pictures and videos of this guy killing cats online, and these people in this like cat group on Facebook were able to hunt down this guy who was a serial killer, and that was just insane in and of itself. And this one is definitely a must-watch if you are a fan of true crime or anything like that. Coming in at number 4, we have the Japanese movie One Cut of the Dead. And this one is a very interesting movie. It kind of does a... which I guess this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to listen to the spoiler, go forward a little bit. But it does a almost American Horror Story Roanoke approach to it, where there's a clear ending point in this movie, and I think that there's some really fun things in it. I watched this with my friend, and when the credits roll in the middle of the movie, which not even the middle of the movie, only 30 minutes into the movie, he was like, what is going on? I don't understand. That was terrible. And then it gets into the next part, and he, at the end, was like, wow, that was actually pretty good, and I'm glad that we watched this. I was like, yeah, just trust me on this. Coming in at number 3 is actually a recommendation that my friend who I showed One Cut of the Dead to gave to me, and it is Over the Garden Wall, and this is also a little mini-series, and this was actually a mini-series on Cartoon Network, so it's animated, and it's about 2 brothers who are traveling through the woods to try and get back home. They encounter different characters and things in the woods in each of the episodes. A lot of the episodes are really, really good, and the whole thing that happens towards the end is just like really good. It was given one of my rare 5 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend that you guys check this one out. It's on Hulu, I believe. Coming in at number 2 is John Carpenter's The Thing, and I hadn't watched this ever, and I had always seen like screen grabs and things like that, so I had thought that I was like, well, I've already seen basically everything that this movie has, and I was pleasantly surprised that there were many things in this movie that I hadn't seen based off of like screen grabs and things like that. One of the main things was the entire dog monster. I had never seen that, and I was like, wow, I'm actually really surprised that I hadn't seen everything, because it seemed like this entire movie was all over the internet. So I was really happy and really enjoyed this one. I can't believe it took me so long to watch it, but I was definitely happy that I did. Coming in at number 1 of the best discoveries that I had this year was May. And May is a movie that I actually heard about from a podcast, and it was one of the hosts' favorite movies. And I was like, oh, okay, I've never seen it before. And I found it on, I forget what I found it on, I'll try to put it somewhere if I figure out what it was. But I found it streaming somewhere, and I watched it, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. It has like this feeling of dread, and it's one of the only things that one of only like 2 or 3 things that I've watched that physically makes me feel uncomfortable because of the characters and how almost like secondhand embarrassment for them and how awkward they are. And I don't know, this movie is just really interesting, and I think that it plays a little different this year, considering that a lot of us are alone and we just want people and to be social, I would say. So I would definitely recommend checking that one out. So that is it for the top 10 discoveries of 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite discoveries were for this year, and let me know what you think of my discoveries, if you've seen any of the movies, whether you like them or not, and why. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.